Hello world, Patricia O'Connor and Frida Ribadorsi here. We just took a little walk and went to the what used to be the Navy base next door, and which is currently now a little bit of a park. I showed off an aircraft carrier off in the distance and some nature trails and the like, and then we passed by the high school on the way home. That's in between me and the ocean on the behind me side, looking that way towards the sunset, just past this building, this beach. It's not like a pristine beach. It's kind of a little cliffy beach, but it's not like a big cliff. It's like you could walk down it in like 3 jumps or something. But anyway, an embankment beach, just past those buildings. As is the sun, is just past that. That little bit that comes in just whenever you see that right there, that comes in and sometimes burns our more tender vegetation. That evening light. Sometimes if you see part of your tree and it's not doing well, think about whether or not, I have heard other people say that some of their pine, some of their stuff that lives out west, you know, full sun, and would still are capable of suffering a little bit of burn on the west side, on the side that faces west. So this is a quick look at how our pines are doing. What I had been noticing earlier is I was having a hard time balancing my small trees between letting them dry out and making sure that they don't spend all day going underwater, which is too long. The plugs were so small that if it started off nice and cool and things looked hunky-dory, I could maybe think that it's too early to water and then go to work, and then like an hour later things will have changed, the temperature will be climbing, and I'm still going to be gone for most of the day. So I found that balance, and getting that balance was kind of hard up here, especially for the smaller ones. But these guys don't seem to have that issue. So I left those up there. All of the little ones I've brought down. I brought this tray over here and then just loaded it up with a few more trays. So yeah, that's kind of what's going on there. I'm just gonna maybe go through here and kind of show what we have going. That is a little mame. The difference, you can see the roots coming out there. You see the way I got those roots, they kind of come up and go down. I should probably keep those covered and keep them a little less exposed, but later we can use that as a cool feature. I was talking about root growth, and what I'm going to work on in the future from here forward is more concentrating on root growth. This tree that was that had its first motion done by Eric, you can kind of see there just below that bottom wire. That wrap is around roots. That part of the trunk was technically at one point below the soil line, and we're making use of that part of the trunk for shape and motion. Or he did ahead of me. That was a good lesson on what to do, and I've kind of been trying to do that ever since. This is my little mame literati, kind of hooks up and back. It looks like it's kind of straight there, but if you look at it from here, it's got a few more bends in it. It's still kind of straight. I could do a little bit more later, I suppose. But yeah, that's our little, and this pot is really wabi-sabi. It fits your fingers really good because you've got these little finger indentions where somebody did just what I was doing when it was still wet clay. But this is one of those that I bent around the skewer. I bent around the chopstick. Get it right, Pat. You can see it kind of does one of those and does that and curls around, as does this one. This one almost looks like it's over early. You know, it comes in high from the top and then does this little hook that spirals around, and then this is still it, and then it comes in and has really good motion where it tucks back into the ground. I'm pretty happy with all of these little trees. Some of them I lift up high, trying to let them kind of get their balance. But between these tiny little plugs drying out and or staying wet too long, I found it to be a fairly hard row to hoe, as they say. And that is, as you can see, Frankenpine in the back. It's looking good. This is our new Japanese black pine acquisition. It's looking great. This is Haas, our Ponderosa. It's doing really, really well. It's got a lot of needles, a lot of new growth. We've really increased the count and the needle growth of this guy, and we're going to allow that to just keep going for a little while, so that we can increase the bud count and the back budding, and then we can increase the needle count even more. And then at some point, it'll say, I can't make those needles long anymore like I used to. They're going to have to be shorter, and we'll act like that's just totally fine. And then at that point, we can clip it back some. Now I'm kind of showing you where we're at on our corkbark oak. I'm really happy with the way this looks. When I got it, I knew it needed some work, but I also knew that it was impressive for its trunk. So if I could just figure out what to do and do it, that we would get there eventually, because this was a, with a trunk like that, just keep it alive, and it's going to be worth doing. And right after that, we started down our path, and we made our mistakes, and then we had a little ailment, and everything got kind of written back off to zero. But by that time, we had learned a few things, and we had already had a moment where we had said if we had it all to do again, and lo and behold, we had it all to do again. And I'm really happier this time around with anything. And we hadn't really gotten that far down the road that I couldn't have. None of this was something that I couldn't have done in one summer. But basically, just knowing a few tricks about the feeding that you should be doing and when to do it, and upping the water intake a little bit, and then a repot, and this thing just started filling out like nobody's business. Speaking of nobody's business, these guys, how about that? That sun coming through there, those rays and that red. That is some splendid colors, and it looks pretty standouty, I think, too, against the silvery look of the bleached bark, the part of that bark that's spent. Let's see, remove a little Patricia hair from the bald cypress. But man, these things are sure pretty. We're about to lose our light any minute. I don't know exactly what time they're popping off right now, but it could happen any minute. There's still a little green down there at the bottom. But these guys have well and truly changed their colors, and it is, at any point, if the only thing that's keeping me from making the branch selection and doing the little prune back that I was, every time I've gotten bored and it would have been a fun time to do that, I was going, well, there's going to come a point where it's not going to be green anymore. It's not going to be photosynthesizing anymore. We will have banked away all the energy we have. And at that point, we can make some branch selection, and we can start pruning back the stuff we're going to keep. And until then, leave it alone. Well, the only thing between now and that is we have more time if we need it, and we don't, but we have it. And that's really pretty. I'm not really in a big rush to go cutting that back. It's not going to be as pretty as it is right now when I do that. Next spring it'll bust forth, as it were, and that's always a rush to see coming. But between that cutback and then February and March, when things start finally budding out again, it gets kind of dull and kind of skimpy looking. It's like a stick, 3 sticks. Yeah, boom, there went our lights. Semi on cue. That's a little quick look at our oak. It's doing really well. It could probably use a little clip back. There's a dozen things I could be doing right now instead of all of these pine shows that I've been doing, but I have really been enjoying them, and I've gotten some material out of it that I'm really looking forward to taking through the next stages. The root work and and everything that goes with it. I plan to pick up a few of the colanders from work that I asked those guys to start handling, and I will use those to, maybe 3 of those or so, to start some root work on those guys. And I've got a few. What I will probably do is something like take a colander, which will be about the size of, say, that little round bonsai pot, except it'll be a colander, not a ceramic pot. And then I will put some substrate in it, and then, kind of like you see, I'll put some wires across the base of one of these pots to wire it down in the center of my colander, and then I'll, not the tray, but the actual pot, I'll cut the bottom out of it without completely, if I can pull off any grace at all, I'll do that without emptying the little pot. And that way all of these roots will amass and fill this side, but we'll have a lot of them here. And then from there on, they'll bank out into the colander where they'll grow fast and make big trees and all that. So at some point, we'll have this mass of straight down roots in an area no bigger than that above what will later be our soil line. And with those roots, we can do anything. We can twist the tree, we can comb them into some shape and do something. We can make balloon animals. I kid, but the world will be our oyster. And if you look at a lot of pines, you'll see that. And at some point, I looked at all of that and went, yeah, I'm not ready. Well, I'm starting to look at that stuff and go, yeah, there's no better time than now. So that's kind of what's going on there. Also, when I got this Glitterati, I was noticing that it had a few yellow needles, like maybe 6 yellow needles when I bought it at the auction. And despite that, I did like there was no tomorrow. And since then, we did go through a few more needles, but nothing that we couldn't see wasn't being legitimately replaced. Well, one thing else it did was it sent a bunch of roots. And I had also wondered if it had been underpotted. And for as tall as it is, not necessarily as big and as fat as it is, but as tall as it is, maybe I was wondering if it had been a little underpotted. It was really quick to send out some roots in the bottom, and that seems to have been its solution to the slightly yellow needles. Glad I could help. But that would have started whenever they cleaned it up for auction, and that's why it only had like 4 or 5 like that. Well, plus whatever they might have cleaned up before they brought it. But I kind of feel like I figured that out, what was going on there, and feel better knowing that it did something to correct its situation. Japanese black pine cork bark, looking nice, feeling good, it's doing really good things. I could probably go through and reduce the needles some, just a little cleanup, fall cleanup. Same with this 17-year, but I've been kind of devoting, like I said, a lot of time to that. We could also be cleaning up this Dawn Redwood. This would be a good time to do the same thing with this Dawn Redwood that I was saying that I will be doing with these. I'll be making branch selections, and the things that we decide we're going to keep and can possibly use, we'll be cutting those back to almost stubs so that next spring we'll get some buds coming out of those, and they will look like something more usable than the thick stuff we've got hanging out on there now. And it's just not really, and also the top has gotten gangly. We did have kind of a nice little vampire stake going there with a shoot coming off of it, but a couple of diebacks later, and we decided to let whatever was going to go up there, and it's making its own tree off of a cliff that's all about to get cut off at some point. We'll cut that back into some sort of nice tent stake / vampire stake looking thing that looked like it was, has some taper to it, and then select some lucky little recipient, looking at you, little possibly lucky recipient to be our new apex, and we'll start over from there. This guy does have a not bad taper with it if I straighten out that branch thing, and that can in truth happen in a year or so. It's not really that far. I just needed I needed screwy stuff to stop happening to my dawn redwood so that we could get some energy back into it so that I could start. Then that's kind of what I felt. I probably could have started earlier than that, but it's like, no, you've done enough. Why don't you just let it break for a minute? Anyway, the evening sun looks really good. We've got those really, really long shadows. You can kind of see them on the moss. It's kind of focusing in a little bit on our hollow feature. So that's just a little quick look. That's two drops for me. It was too nice not to show you where I was standing at the moment when I was at the Naval Yard, and it was too nice not to show you these fall colors when I was just hanging out here a minute ago. So like and subscribe if you guys have not already. We will do probably some drop where we'll pick back up either tonight or mañana, and we'll put some more motion back into a pine. And then after that, what I plan to do next is, in no particular order, bring in an oak and do some shaping, bring in an oak and do some shaping, and then at some point I can still defoliate our Kodahan maple forest. Those are all cool 3 projects right off the top we have ahead of us, and then like I said, the dawn redwood, and then that'll bring us right into the cypress trees. So yeah, thanks a lot for watching.